Hello everyone, and welcome to Straight Chilling. Each week we watch and review a horror film for your entertainment. You can send all questions and comments to straightchillingpodcast@gmail.com, and don't forget to keep chilling.
Yeah, we straight chillin', serial killing. 5 cold villains on the mic, got you reeling. 5-star ratings from the floor to the ceiling. If you get your 1 star, no time for feelings. Got a team and DJ, all the 1s and 2s. By the name Elsevier, so don't get confused. So grab a seat by the fire, roast them all with 2. And prepare to hear the legend of the Straight Chillin' crew.
What up, nerds? Welcome to another fantastic episode of Straight Chilling. My name is Bob, and I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode number 204, recorded Sunday, March 3rd, 2019. Tonight, we're going to be reviewing another Patreon pick. This time, the movie was chosen by the one, the only, Hydraberg. The title is The Entity.
Hail Hydraberg.
Hail Hydraberg. Before we get into it, let me introduce all these mother truckers on the show here tonight. First up, calling in from Santa Barbara, California, my boy, Randy Gandy G. Landy.
Ahoy, hoy. How is everybody?
Well, are you on a boat?
I'm just feeling that nautical feel, man. What's wrong with that?
You're a salty, salty sailor.
I watched some whales last week. I might as well be a fucking naval guard or whatever. A
Totally.
naval person.
Totally.
Person made of navy beans.
Naval gazer. Last but not least, calling in from Southern Korea, my boy Soju.
What up? It's your boy, hashtag Team Scream Stains.
Hotline Scream Stains?
Boy.
Yep, you know what I'm talking, Bob. You know what I'm talking.
Yes.
Hashtag Scream Stains.
It's
Shame that's not printed on paper anywhere.
It's not.
Or even
Let
formed
me
into a cohesive graphic.
Let me give our viewers a little background here.
Do it.
Bob and Randy often like to go rogue, but your boy Soju, he's team player all the way.
I'm
so-
sorry. I seem to recall somebody saying
Rogue?
on an episode that I could not be on that he was going to go ahead and make the call about what our segments are called without my approval. So why don't we take the rogue talk elsewhere, all right? This ain't fucking Alaska, and you ain't fucking what's her dick? McCain's running.
What's her dick? The mama bear?
Mama bear.
That's a deep reference.
And whatever. Back on.
McCain Bear 2020.
What's her dick?
What? Palin is the one you're looking for.
Alan.
Miss Palin. Let's go ahead and take care of some housekeeping real quick. So the March poll pick ended. We're going to be talking about a movie that Randy hates. The movie that won is House of Wax.
Never seen it.
So,
Randy, I bet he's gonna love it.
If I love
I
it,
wonder.
the thing is, I can't love it because at this point, it's like that's the twist everyone's expecting. So
Yeah.
I can't Shyamalan myself and just like this isn't The Village. I'm not going to give you what you expect. I got to subvert.
To ignite Randy's love for Paris Hilton.
she is charming.
She's pretty hot, I'm told by her often.
It's so hot. It's so fucking hot. Oh my god.
I love that you actually tagged me and her in a thing. Like that exists. We're on Instagram in the same photo. That's upset.
I was hoping she'd respond and be like, "Oh, it's my boy Randy Gandy G. Landy."
She's really going to taint my brand. I don't know, man.
Your brand is already tainted. It's nothing but taints, actually.
She's going to brand my
Yeah,
taint
it's-
probably too.
Oh my god, so fucking hot. Oh my god. So the April poll is up on Patreon there. So if you support us on Patreon at the $5 level or above, you can vote on a movie that we're going to talk about this coming April. The theme of the month is movies that fooled us, and the 3 movies that are up there that you can vote between are The Boy, American Psycho, and Saw.
I resent that somebody thought I picked The Boy.
I mean, you do have
That
poor
movie was
taste in
instantly
movies.
I picked that one just like I wanted something more modern, and like all my normal choices would have been right around that same early 2000s twisty zone. Yeah. But I just wanted something different. But people immediately started shitting on The Boy. So if you're a Boy fan, you need to represent on paper. Just
I don't know.
It's not that
remove the
bad.
brand from my taint.
You know what it reminded me of? It was like a much, much shittier version of that baller New Zealand movie, Housebound or whatever.
Right,
Kind of. That's what it like made me think of.
Yeah.
No spoil. Like we shouldn't drop any kind of spoilers. Or, I mean,
man. Man, that's a good non-spoiler.
I agree, though. Housebound is pretty sweet. For sure.
I need much, much better.
Yeah, that too. Justin, you want to talk about some YouTube and some Twitch stuff?
Yeah, Bob, last week we did Audition. You dropped a sweet little Blu-ray review of Audition.
I did it.
Bob's Blu-rays. I don't think you got one for us this week, though. No Entity Blu-ray. That shit's hard to lock down, right?
Yeah, there's like a German release, and then there's the DVD that is all region, and then it's like hard to find, so people jack the price up on eBay because they're jerks. So
God
yeah.
damn assholes.
Well, now that we've now that we've said the name out loud on a recorded format, Arrow Video is probably going to come out with a fucking steel case next week.
We
Steel
drive the
briefcase.
market here, okay?
It's true.
We drive the market. So
Bob's Blu-rays or nothing.
Bob's Blu-rays needs to get us that steel book entity.
Let's steel book this entity, shall we?
But
I need the
if you're
stair
interested, we got a new Bob's Blu-rays up. Audition. It's baller. Check that out. It is March, so we have started a new game on the Twitch this month. It is Limbo from Playdead like studios or something like that. It's pretty cool, but it also looks like it's super short. I played about an hour yesterday and was like halfway done. So this month might be a double feature. I might try to knock out Limbo and what's that Inside, which is by the same studio, and they look kind of very similar. So it might be a double feature this month. So you can check out some playthrough of those games on YouTube. Also, if you're interested too, last month's game was Resident Evil 2 Remake, and I am now going through my main playthrough was with Leon, and just to kind of round out the game, I'm doing it in my spare time, some Claire playthroughs. So I'll be uploading those on YouTube too if you're interested in how that goes. I'm so just really digging that game, so I want to keep playing it. So I'll upload some of the streams to Twitch and to YouTube. You can check those out every week, doing those Twitch streams, new Bob's Blu-rays. I'm going to be dropping, as soon as I'm done with the Claire playthrough too, I'll do a review of Resident Evil 2 Remake like I did with Little Nightmare. So keep an eye out for that coming maybe this week, maybe next week. So yeah, everyone, appreciate your comments, appreciate your subscribes. Numbers are booming. Appreciate it.
We're booming.
Booming over here.
Yes, we are. Cool. Thank you, Juice. That's going to do it for housekeeping. Let's go ahead and get into what we've been watching this week.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
What have we been watching, Randy?
Let's see. This week, last night, I finally got around to watching The Ritual, which I greatly enjoyed. And I actually think that if I had known about it, or if I had seen it in the year that it was released, I might have made my top 10. I really enjoyed it a lot.
Shit. That was last year, dog. Last year.
I know, and it was not a competitive year for me in the top 10. I guess I just didn't see as many 2018 movies as I thought I did because I had a hard time filling it out. But yeah, I really enjoyed it a lot. I don't want to go too deep into it, but like, with the exception of a couple of qualms I had with how they handled certain aspects of it, I thought that the acting in that was pretty fucking great. I thought that the storyline was really tight. It was great. And then aside from that, I've been on a crazy kick, which I'm not usually much of a gamer, but I've been buying like these little titles here and there. I've played through Undertale and Deltarune in a week, which is sort of like a hit indie game, and then its spiritual successor, and it's chapter 1 was released this month or last month or something, recently. But they're both really fucking good. I don't know if you guys have heard of them. Have you heard of it?
No.
It's not much for horror, but it's kind of got that weird like homebrew creepypasta sort of vibe to it.
Okay.
Just a little bit. Not. It's still very family friendly, and it's like kind of depends on how you play it. But it's sort of like Earthbound in that you're playing as a kid who's trapped in a world of monsters, and you have to decide whether to attack them or to befriend them, and it's just like this whole thing, and it's really funny. It's really well written and like silly, and it's like an RPG, I should say. And there's not much to it. It's not that long, but there's multiple playthroughs that you can do, different versions and variations and different endings you can get. So I had a lot of fun with that. So I went ahead and got Deltarune, which is the spiritual successor, and it's even better in my opinion, at least in terms of game mechanics and things like that. I like how it plays and I like how it's written, so recommend.
Cool.
Sweet.
Those little indie games, man, they're pretty.
Some of them are fucking great. Limbo is actually one of my favorites. I played that a few years back, and
yeah,
it is short, but
yeah, I'm totally behind on that. I guess I'll talk about that for what we've been watching. Go, Bob, kick it in.
Juice, what you been watching?
Well, for
Introduce
the Twitch, I've been playing Limbo, and that game, I am a sucker for, like, I really appreciate like simple ideas that are just like done so well. And like Limbo is just like, there's no color. It's all black and grays, and it just looks fantastic. And like, just like pulling that off is great. And it's just like a little side scroller puzzle game or whatever, but I am getting a kick out of one of my biggest beefs was when I played Little Nightmares in January. Is like it kind of bitched out a little bit on the desk. Like there was a good tension, like you didn't want to get caught, but when you did get caught, like, you know, it kind of bitched out a little bit. But dude, Limbo has been cracking me up to the point to where I purposely want to kill my character because the deaths are like so brutal. And then for this like little side scroller like cartoon game, it's pretty awesome. So I've been like, every time that kid dies, I like crack up. I lose my shit. So if that sounds entertaining to you, I'm like, wait, I shouldn't jump through this saw, but I want to jump through this saw. So I just like send him to his death, and it cracks me up.
It's so there's so much fanfare to it too. It's not like Mortal Kombat where you get a crazy zoom in as you finish him. It just sort of like your head falls off.
Yeah, his like head pops off, and there's like little spurts of blood. But also, like, I ripped this like giant spider apart, and like fluid goes flying everywhere. It's like a really cool game. So I've been enjoying that a lot. And I also did 6 months ago, I think I mentioned on the cast, our studios here, our movie theaters, brought Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone back, and they put it in 4DX. So I went and saw it. And now 6 months later, Chamber of Secrets has come out. So I'm hoping this is like a trend, especially because the next one would be number 3, Prisoner of Azkaban. That would be so dope. But so I went and saw Chamber of Secrets in 4DX, which is fucking awesome because it's just like a 2.5 hour Harry Potter ride, essentially. I mean, they have like jet streams, they have fucking fans, they have fog, like smells. They bust like smells, and like it moves, and like they'll do like heat and stuff sometimes. I mean, it's bonkers.
Awesome.
It is really awesome.
I don't care for those movies, but I would definitely enjoy that.
Like the Quidditch, we're all like holding on to our popcorn, like, oh shit, don't lose the popcorn. And but it's super dope. So I really enjoyed that. On like another note, though, I know I kind of had the spiel on Mary Poppins and Winnie the Pooh back in the day. Dumbledore's a sketchy guy, man. I mean, he makes some, like, as a teacher myself now, I mean, this dude's like in charge of a school, and that dude just like, it's not very responsible. That dude like lets like 4 people get attacked by a giant fucking snake before like deciding to shut this school down. It's like, goddamn, guy, come on. Or before they even make like requirements, they're always just like, oh shit, somebody got attacked. You guys be very careful. And then after like the 4th or 5th attack, they're like, okay, maybe the teacher should like walk the kids to class and shit like that. So come on, Dumbledore, what the fuck are you doing over here? Come on.
McGonagall was like, that dumb. I'm not wasting my fucking time walking snot-nosed shits to class.
Also, another thing about that like whole storyline is like that's the one with the snake, and like people get petrified. So they immediately show up and they're like, "Oh, these people aren't dead; they're petrified." But nobody can figure out like what this thing is that's killing people. They're like, oh, is it this giant spider? And it's like, well, can the giant spider petrify people? Like, you guys are fucking teachers. Like, you don't know like what fucking petrifies people? Like, that's like, I figure like that's like a pretty slim list of like magical creatures.
Oh man, I'm about to do this specific. You know what? I'm not going to do it. I could totally take up this and explain to you exactly why that happens. We're going to skip that. This is not Harry and the Potters podcast.
Not Pottercast.
Not Pottercast. So anyways, I watched Soul Chamber Secrets in 40X, and that was super dope. And one more thing I watched a almost 3 hour supercut called Omar is Coming, which is essentially just Omar's story from The Wire.
That's fucking awesome.
It's on YouTube. You could check it out. It was fucking dope. Because I've mentioned, like, I've just been on this kick where I haven't been watching, like, episodes. So I've just been watching a ton of, like, Wire clips. And I found that one. And it started off where I was like, I'm just going to watch, like, 10 minutes of this. And, like, nope, dude. Like, it's been over a couple days. So I didn't just sit down and watch 3 hours of Omar. But, I have almost finished it now. One of my favorite things I forgot about, there's this point to where like Omar, he like wakes up and he wants to get like some cereal and his Honey Nut Cheerios are gone. And so he goes out and he's like in his silk robe. He like just wakes up and he like just walks to the corner store and like, and the whole time people are like, oh, Omar's coming over. The kids like scatter and he just like goes to smoke a cigarette and somebody just drops their package. They drop the stash right. Not even like trying to rob anybody. He's just going to get his.
He just happened to be outside a stash house and they're that scared of him.
Yeah, silk ass robe. Great. That shit is awesome. So that's a wonderful character from
Get you a man who loves you the way Omar loves Honey Nut.
That shit is cracking me up. So, all right. I skipped last week. What you been watching? So, I had to fill out this week a bit.
Omar coming. I watched some movies this weekend. I revisited Donnie Darko, which is something I hadn't seen since it came out. And I forgot that like Maggie Gyllenhaal was in it and Drew Barrymore is in it. And
I forgot that too.
Yeah,
Drew.
It's also I watched like some of the bonus features on the Blu-ray, and Jason Schwartzman was originally cast to be Donnie Darko, and that's like why the movie like actually got made. Essentially, is because he was attached to it, so people started throwing money at it, and then Drew Barrymore got on and got even more money thrown at it, and then Schwartzman like dropped out, and then Drew Barrymore was like, "No, I'm all in." So that's like. Her resilience kind of like pulled it through, and then they got Gyllenhaal on board.
She had some shit to say about cellar doors. I'll tell you that. Goddamn much.
She did. I like that movie a lot. I don't know that I totally get it. There's a lot of cool stuff happening, but it doesn't necessarily make a ton of sense to me personally. But I do enjoy watching it.
Yeah, that's one of those frustrating ones for me. Like, kind of sound like, oh man,
I have a
shit, but like, it's kind of fart sniffy and like, oh,
a little bit.
Yeah. I have like an almost irrational like dislike of that movie. Even like one that I can't really verbalize, and it's not hatred really. It's just like dismissive to the like, and it's my problem really. But like, there's something about that movie that really just turns me the fuck off, and I really want to hate it more than I actually
cover Donnie Darko.
I can reasonably
like a poll,
support.
Like
a
selection on the poll picker. So that
Maybe
would be
we'll
a
get
weird
to it.
movie to cover.
I get like the themes and the ideas that the movie is like talking about. I just don't. If there is a point, which maybe there's not, I just don't really get what the point is of the movie. But I do like it. I don't know. I've been watching this show on Netflix called The 2000s, and there's like
I saw some of that.
Yeah, they do one for like the 90s and the 80s and whatnot too, and it's all produced by Tom Hanks, and it's pretty cool. They're specifically like the episodes that delve into like politics and stuff, like all this crazy shit that was happening in the early 2000s when we were relatively young. It's like you remember hearing about it, but when you're like 12, you don't really give much of a shit, you know? Like
yeah, like the whole election shit. Like thinking back on that shit now, you're like, oh my god, that was really fucked up.
I mostly remember hanging Chad jokes. That's really about all I got.
They get into
that.
Enron, like, and all that shit. And I'm like, man, I haven't heard of Enron in a long time. I don't know. It's just kind of cool to go back through some of that stuff at the age of 30, and it's like means a lot more obviously now. So that was pretty cool. And I also watched A Star is Born, which is a lovely, lovely movie.
Is that the one with Gaga? Is that the one that...
And Bradley Cooper, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, pretty good, man. Recommend.
Rob.
Recommend.
You sucker.
Fucking...
Thanks, guys. I'll be here all week.
Rob went on a little date with himself to see A Star is Born.
Fucking sellout. Oh my god. It's
fucking jock.
fucking
Let me
hot.
purse my lips. You fucking jock.
You fucking jock.
You know me. I was always playing football and the baseballs, all the sports balls, all the sporting
A
balls.
Star is Born. Jock.
That's it. That's it for me. Let's get into the main event and talk about The Entity.
What's on the back of the box?
All right, good Sir Hydraberg, what the fuck have you put us through this week? We're talking about The Entity from 1982. This little movie right here, this is another like super short synopsis, courtesy of IMDb. A woman is tormented and sexually molested by an invisible demon.
They undersell that.
Yeah, totally. Don't.
I'm actually genuinely surprised they mentioned the sexual assault because I feel like that's the kind of thing that they would gloss over.
It should just say like, "This lady be haunted." That's it.
Welcome to a spooky romp where a family has ghosties.
I will say, like, when the movie started, it kind of had a similar tone, at least in the beginning, of like Poltergeist. And I was like, oh, it's going to be sort of like, Poltergeisty, like inspired by Poltergeist or whatever. And it, wrong. Not like Poltergeist. Anyways.
Well,
yeah, we'll get into it.
They have commonalities.
Yeah, well, I mean, come on, Ray. Of course they have commonalities. What am I, a jock? This movie is something that none of us had seen prior. So going into this, were you guys at least aware of it on some level at all, or were you going in totally blind? And would you recommend people put their eyeballs on it? Juice, why don't you kick us off?
Totally blind on this one. I didn't know anything about this film. We all had to stream it. Hard to find. And just for that case alone, I mean, a couple things. I didn't think that this was a bad movie. I'll get into the review later, so I'm not like knocking this movie. But this is one of those movies where kind of like my reputation hangs. Like I wouldn't be like, you need to check out The Entity, because then I'd be worried about what that person thought of me when I was finished. If they could even find it, like it's so difficult to find that it's not like. The hunt I had to do to find this was like not, it wasn't super easy to get a hold of. So unless that steelbook's coming soon, this isn't something that you should really like search out. Actually, we have a link now if you really need it. But I in that same vein, I didn't think it was a bad movie though.
Yeah. So light recommend, I guess. Take away from
I guess if you're willing to put in the work, then you can, but be warned though.
Randy, how about you, dog?
I've never heard of this movie, and I intentionally sort of avoided anything about it, which wasn't hard. In between the time where it was chosen and going in, I'm trying to do that a little bit more so that I can sort of get an unfiltered read on stuff, or try to. Yeah. So, as far as recommendations, fuck my reputation. This movie's worth watching. I think as long as you are capable of emotionally handling sexual assault issues and like visuals, it's pretty grueling at that. And as long as you sort of are into the like 70s, early 80s, like spooky poltergeisty type of movies, you should be fine. And to me, I'm honestly surprised this movie doesn't have a reputation that reached me at any point. I'm like, it seems like, and I guess probably because it doesn't have easy accessibility, so like there's not that word of mouth amongst people who weren't around when it was coming out or when it was still being produced for home video. So I don't know what the deal is with that, but I was genuinely surprised. I was expecting it to be a lot schlockier than what I got. I think it's a an effective movie, and yeah, I don't want to go full review on it just yet, but I would recommend it as long as you can handle the sexual assault stuff.
Right. Yeah. I recommend watching this movie. It's I don't know that I could say I enjoyed it. I feel like a lot of people would probably enjoy it a lot more than I did. So given the caveats that have already been provided, if you're cool with that, check it out. It's well done. I will say it. I believe that the filmmakers really did achieve what they were trying to achieve, and so yeah, if you're cool with rapey ghosties, check it out.
Who is it?
Yes. Yeah.
Spoiler.
Yeah. Well, you know,
You fucking jock! God damn it!
I
Go
just
go kick a football.
I love hockey so much. Florida hockey.
Damn, this guy likes sports. Hey, everyone. This guy likes sports. He's a fucking jock. Fucking jock.
Let's kick his ass. He's never read Marvel. Let's
Guilfoyle, get him.
Guilfoyle. Let's drop that spoiler warning and we'll get into the dang movie.
Spoiler warning.
Alrighty, The Entity. So this movie is difficult, or at least it was for me to get through.
So who was surprised? Who was like, I was like, you know what though? Hang on.
Okay,
It's hard. It's hard to
thought in the next 5 seconds.
I know. Okay, so this movie is about a poltergeist. Okay, it's about and it follows a typical kind of poltergeist story in that that we've been seeing like a lot lately. Like you have a single mother or like a family that's struggling. You know, like which typically we're looking at like The Conjuring 2. Just movies where like the family's struggling. It's not like they can just go stay in a hotel. They can just move out or whatever. So it's a single mom. She's got 3 kids. One of them's like in high school. He's getting pretty old, so he helps her out a decent amount, but still like, 17 or something. And then 2 younger kids. And you got a poltergeist story. But the thing with the poltergeist is it rapes this woman every night. Every night.
Not every night.
So we're not
most nights though.
Lots of nights.
Man. I think it's
No, there's a couple nights that they don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So most nights.
Yeah.
So throughout the course of this movie, we see a woman get raped by a ghost like 8 times.
5 times.
5. Okay.
I paid
a lot
of attention to this, and I have a lot to say about it.
Okay,
Yeah.
a lot of times. I thought it felt like even more than that.
Yeah.
A lot of times. And here's the thing. They do it pretty good, though, because the first attack comes like 10 minutes into the film. Like, it doesn't really, like, it like, kind of comes full force. However, the first attack, I didn't realize, like, I didn't think, like, oh, she's getting raped. Because she kind of, like, gets punched in the face.
Yeah.
And then it like smothers her with a pillow, but there's none of like the sexual stuff that you see later. Of course, later on in the film, it gets like more brutal. But then later she goes like to a psychiatrist and she says like, oh, I was raped. Or she's like telling her friend like, oh, I was raped. And then that's when I was like, oh, whoa, God, like what?
Yeah.
Did you guys else?
Yeah, I thought that's what was happening, but when she later confirmed it, then I knew for sure. I wasn't 100% on it because it doesn't show it. You just kind of see her struggling. And I was like, I kind of think she's getting raped, but I hope not. And I was like, okay, yeah, she was.
I guess because it was the pillow, like it had a pillow in her face, so like the struggle was like to breathe, like, oh, I'm breathing or whatever. So I need to breathe.
No, I knew she was getting raped right away.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
The way that she was moving in that scene, like she had the pillow on her face, sure, but she's moving back and forth the whole time she's getting assaulted, and it was troubling to me. I was like, I did not see that coming at all. I didn't know that's what this movie was about.
Dude, there's a scene where she gets raped again in front of her children.
Yes. Yeah.
And it goes and in that point, there is no like mistaking. Like it goes like ham. Like,
well, I mean, so there's 5 instances of her being raped on screen.
There's more than
and
that,
there's
man.
like, it's each one, freaking Hydraberg got me yelling at my TV watching this fucking movie. I was just like, this is one of those.
Yeah, I did yell at my TV a little bit.
This is one of those movies I probably would have turned off, but I was like, well, I have to watch it because it's for the show, and I want to be able to actually talk about the whole movie intelligently and stuff. But if I just threw this on like randomly one night, I probably would have turned it off and be like, nah, not for me.
Hang on, dude. There's got to be more than 5.
There's
count
more than
them.
5 attacks. There's not more than 5.
Correct.
Rapes,
so there's the first time
there's
that
a few
we've
times she
already
gets attacked, but no.
we've
The
already
first one?
discussed with the pillow over the mouth. There's the second time where she's in the bathroom and it's fucking terrible. There's the third time, which is in front of her kids, which establishes like the weird lightning stuff, and her son, his wrists get broken by the ghost. And that also establishes that it's like one big ghost or demon, and then like 2 little helpers. No, that's in the bathroom scene. So there's
That's
like
the bathroom
that's
scene.
the
she's like
bathroom
being
scene.
held down by 2 smaller entities.
That's how
and
she
then a
describes
bigger
it,
one.
yeah.
And then there's the fourth one that happens while she's totally asleep actually, and then it like causes her to orgasm, and she just kind of freaks out. Because that's like taking it to a whole nother fucking level. And then the last time is when her boyfriend finally comes home and they're about to get jiggy with it, and then he comes out of the bathroom and she's like full on mid rape scene with this poltergeist.
There's definitely some other attacks though. Like there's some scenes where they like run out of the house or at their friend's house.
Well, she's in the car and loses control of the car. Yeah, her friend's house gets totally wrecked.
So there probably are like 8 to 10 haunting
instances.
moments.
Yeah. So I don't know. It was a lot, and like by the end of the movie, I was like having this internal debate. I was thinking like, was that like way too exploitative? Did they actually need to show all 5 of those different scenes to get their point across, or was it just like totally unnecessary and it's just like showing it to you because it's messed up and for no other reason? Like, is it actually like pushing the plot forward? Is it actually developing the story whatsoever? And like, I actually do believe that in each one of those scenes, it is developing the plot and pushing the story forward, because it does introduce like a different aspect to this entity and this like haunting or whatever you want to call it in each scene. Like,
her relationship with it.
Yeah, and her relationship with it too. Like the second time it happens, you find out about the helpers and she gets bit and like bruised, so there's like physical marks. And then in front of her kids, the crazy like lightning shit, and then it like hurts her
kids,
wrist, and then like when she like orgasms, which is totally messed up, that's like psychologically fucking with her now. It's not just physically. It's like that's like a whole nother level of like being taken advantage of. And then, of course, like the sort of, I don't know, the scene where like her dude comes in and witnesses it happening.
Ruins her relationship.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And he gets his ass beat. Yeah. So it's like, it does like.
Also by her son.
Also by her son. Yeah. So it does like elevate each time and like progress the story. Now, those scenes probably could have been shortened. They probably could have showed less nudity.
I'm glad
or
that
whatnot,
they didn't, though.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been as like fucking horrifying.
See, that's the thing. Even if there was one in there that didn't have like a really strong example of what you're talking about, and maybe was like okay, maybe that point could have been glossed over or handled a different way. Like they could handle it off screen and then have Jerry come by and say, "I can't have her anymore. I saw some crazy shit." Yeah. Like, and not have to see her nude or whatever again. But I think that's what this movie is not going to shy away from, the real horror of the situation. Yeah, which is
no
like
punches.
I respect it, honestly. Like it is more effective to me than like a Serbian film was in terms of like actually freaking me out and making me feel horrible, because I know that it's like, to me, it doesn't feel like the goal is what you said earlier, to just show something fucked up and to elicit like a schadenfreude out of you or some sort of like response out of you that is unrelated to anything other than just what you're seeing on screen.
Yeah.
It's not just a visceral reaction. It's a visceral reaction that is tied in tandem to this woman's story. Yeah. And it serves its point. Like, to me, it never felt cheap. It all felt earned, and it all felt like it had to be that long to be as valuable as it is to show those points.
Yeah, not only were you saying like those, you did feel like that those scenes were justified in developing like the creature, but I think each one of those scenes is very important. More importantly, for the woman for really what I feel like the main like focus and story here is because we see the progression of this woman. And if this could easily be a movie where there's not a ghost in it and it could just be about a woman in an abusive relationship. Yeah. And that's kind of where the respect for this movie comes out, because the progression we see in this woman with Randy talking about like the whole Serbian film and everything is heartbreaking because she gets attacked.
Well, it parallels reality.
Exactly. She gets attacked and like her. So she goes through these reactions. First, of course, she's scared and she seeks help. Like she goes out and seeks help, and to the point to where she has like physical marks on her at one, bites and bruises. And she's getting this whole thing of like doubt or like, you know, like, oh, I know something's wrong, but you know, you seem to be like overplaying it, or you seem to be confused, or you seem to be not telling me the truth. And then she gets to a point to where it's attacking her in front of her kids and attacking her kids to get to her. So then she has this breakdown where she's like, she's trying to protect her kids, and she's like, I'm going to like give into it. I'm just going to like, I'm not going to struggle. I'm not going to fight anymore. And that's terrible because that parallels reality of like an abusive relationship, especially with the single mother who like struggles and, you know, dating somebody and like seeing somebody who like ends up being abusive and stuff like that. Like that rings true. And then, you know, she finally finds someone who's like able, who believes her, like this group of people who actually believes her. And then the empowerment she gets from that, like like the relief, you like this actress like kills it because like she's just so relieved that somebody finally believes her, that somebody's willing to help her. And that gives her like the strength to like fight back or whatever. Like, yes, we're going to like, man, it really was like an emotional fucking roller coaster, man.
This movie, like, and I don't want to talk about other movies too much, but especially in the first, I want to say half to 2/3 of this movie, I was very deeply thinking about Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, the David Lynch prequel movie to Twin Peaks, which I love. Obviously, I'm a Twin Peaks dork, but that movie also sort of deals with these, like, sort of the cyclical nature of abuse, and just sort of like creates an allegory for abuse. And that's what I thought this movie was doing for a majority of it. And I think it still applies itself as that up until you get sort of to the end where they sort of have to commit whole hog to the conceit that it is a ghost and it's like a paranormal event. And it's not like they have to really like dig into that a little bit, which, you know, I don't think it really detracts though, because I was so I feel like they played both sides of that street pretty well. Like I was very invested in like the allegorical truth that they were telling, which is, you know, and before I say this, I want to say we tried to get some women on this cast to sort of diversify a little bit, but because of the short time frame, we didn't have a chance. So you're going to have to deal with us mansplaining and shit.
Sorry in advance.
Sorry, yeah. If please at me, I'll make it right. But
let me offer this female perspective.
Yeah, let me. But, like, it's a real thing. Like it's a real thing. I don't think you have to be a female to acknowledge that like somebody in an abusive relationship like that, not even necessarily a woman, but like typically a woman will like end up staying with somebody purely because they're ashamed and they're afraid of not being believed, and they're not believed. And they're told to get over it, and that it's just all in their head. That's a reality.
Even if you're just able to have some semblance of empathy, like imagining like the like fear and the strength it takes to even like just say like, hey, I was raped, one, just that, but then to say like by an invisible man, like, and she even says it, like she says it to her friend. She's like, I think I was like raped last night, but there was like nobody in my room. And her friend's like, oh, you're correct. Like you know, that response from like your best friend,
who by the way, of course it sounds in every other context. Her best friend is totally in her court. But she's not willing to believe her on this.
I love her. Sorry to derail just real quick, but I love her best friend's husband, George. He's like a little bit of comedic relief that you get in this movie is him, and I fucking loved when he was in the movie because I was just like screaming at my TV otherwise. George is just like off screen yelling at his wife like, it sure would be nice to have a cup of coffee, Linda. He's just being like a total dumbass, but at least it was funny.
Woman. She's also like her character actually does play into what I'm talking about though too, because at that moment that you're talking about, she says to Carla, she's like, "Oh, I should just leave him. If I had any nerve, I would." And I'm like, "Man, you should then."
Yeah, you're
should.
seeing like those parallels.
Another parallel of the same thing.
He wasn't
where it's
abusive, or at least not that we see. Though.
Not
you
that
don't
we
know him to be physically abusive, but
he's psychologically, he's like, would be nice to have a cup of coffee.
He just seems to me that he's like this idiot. That's how it comes off to me, anyways. Like, not harmful,
I mean,
just a
and
fucking dumbass.
I think it is, but she's also like in some regard afraid to leave him. So that again plays into that theme of like people being in some kind of abusive relationship, whether it's
even
intentional
abusive to him. Like he literally throws out her best friend on the street. yeah.
Damn it!
So I definitely got that. Yeah.
No, I loved her though. Like I actually I was at one point I was like, damn, whatever her name is, Linda. Let's say like Linda's coming through in the clutch a lot. She lets you come over in the middle of the night and with all your kids and eat whatever you want out of the fridge, all while she's getting yelled at by her husband because he's a shitbag. Like, and that's just like the first example of her. And then the only thing she doesn't do, she's not willing to do, is go whole hog on the ghost theory, which in reality,
whole hog.
That's fair.
Her name is Cindy, by the way.
But as an allegory, it feels unfair because we know this to be true of her. It's the same sort of thing that like you're going through a similar sort of thing that I would imagine she's going through. Like you're identifying with her, and that's a parallel to a real situation.
But once she sees it, she then hops in.
She's right.
She's like, let's go to the bookstore and we're going to find all out about the occult.
Which I think was one of the things I didn't like. They should have kept her in more, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But luckily she finds... Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Bob.
I was just going to comment on like the themes of like, psychology versus like parapsychology is sort of like the back and forth here. Like, she truly believes that she has this entity in her home. And then her psychologist is saying that, it's not real. It's in her head. And it's basically it's in her head because of all of these past traumas that she's endured. Like it turns out that she got pregnant with her first son when she was 16. It was a bad, abusive relationship. And then she got pregnant again by another guy and had 2 more kids. And then he was like a much older man and he left her. And then her father was abusive to her.
She's had nothing but shitty
terrible.
Or abandoned.
Yeah.
Like she was beaten, she was molested, and she was abandoned. And now she's got this new beau. And by the end of the movie, he's done the latter.
He leaves her too. But also, like, the movie gives you this backstory. And briefly, you're kind of like, okay, maybe this is in her head, and it is based on like these past traumas that she's endured. But you don't really have that back and forth for very long because, like, it breaks her son's wrists and all this other crazy stuff, like smashes up the whole house. I kind of wish they would have left that doubt in the movie more. I think it would have made it a little more interesting for me personally. Anyways, they kind of quickly debunked that though.
I don't know. I'm kind of like fatigued with that line of thinking. So to me, it was like welcome to have this story where you're not being teased. You're instead just whole hog. Yeah, I'm fully invested in what she is actually going through, what to be the case for her, as opposed to wondering whether she's a reliable narrator or not. I'm just like, there's a lot of that right now. So
I don't think that was the point of including it, but I feel like the point of including it was to have that, like, even like we say with the friend, like, well, it's reasonable to have that doubt that a ghost is raping you, but at the same time, like we know as an audience also too that it's true, and so it makes it that much more heartbreaking for the woman because like it's still that kind of thing of like nobody's gonna believe me. Like I can't make anyone believe me. I go seek help. I go to the doctor. I'm trying to get better. Like I'm trying to fix this situation, and under no circumstance, like, can anybody truly believe me and help me under reasonable circumstances? But it's still so tragic. Like it is. And until somebody helps her, and then that's like, man,
they
that's
have
such
to
a
see
turn.
It. Even the parapsychologists, they have to see it happen before they come around.
Yeah, they are skeptical.
Everybody's skeptical, and like they need to be. Like you, it's hard to blame them for that skepticism. It's just heartbreaking, like Justin said. It always reminds me. It doesn't always remind me. It reminded me
always
of the
whole hog. Sorry,
of the whole hog. Every part of the hog. We use every part around here.
Even the feet.
No, of the cable guy, which I know is a weird correlation, but it's
Dude,
like
that
a
movie
topic-
gives me anxiety. Yeah,
exactly, and it's the same anxiety where you like Brendan. For those who haven't seen this movie, Brendan Fraser's in a sort of relationship, sort of friendship with this weird guy. But
Brendan Fraser.
Did I say
Nah.
Brendan?
Jim
What's his
Carrey?
name? Huh?
Are you looking for Jim Carrey?
No. Ferris Bueller. What's his fucking name?
I want to say Ben Stiller. It's not. God, what is that fucking dude's name? It's not Brendan Fraser. It's not Ben Stiller. Goddamn, we know the main guy.
Oh.
Yeah, Ferris Bueller. Call him Ferris.
All right, so Ferris has like struck up a kind of friendship with Jim Carrey, who's a cable guy, but it's also started to turn really bad. He's crossed several boundaries, including getting him to sleep with a hooker. Matthew Broderick, thank you. So, like, he's done all these terrible things to him, but he's the only one that knows this. Yeah. And he's also on the rocks with his girlfriend, and he's at a family event, and this guy shows up at his house, and he is so charming that everybody believes Jim Carrey over him. Like, they think that Matthew Broderick is completely overreacting, and it's like a personalized hell where you're surrounded by people that you love and you want to protect from this asshole right here, but you cannot convince anybody that they're an asshole. That's what's happening with this fucking spirit, and I think about that a lot with these sort of movies. It's a weird correlation, but it's true. It's like, it's a frustrating feeling, and I liked being able to revel in that instead of the will they, or is it true, isn't it true sort of thing. Will they, won't they, of the ghost and his victim.
I gotta give like mad props to Barbara Hershey in this movie. Like, she killed it. Like, she did a fucking fantastic job just acting in these scenes where there's obviously like nothing holding her down or whatever. She like really sells the terror, and she sells everything. It's very effective. Like, yeah. I
think 100% of the acting in this movie was at least good and primarily great. I think like even some of the side characters were fucking great. Like Dr. Beardsley or whatever the fucking beard guy, Dr. Beardface. He does a great job because, like, at first I got my eye on him for Cooter of the Week early. Like, I'm early on, like, okay, this guy, he's coming to a patient's house, he's dropping her off and coming inside. I don't know what this guy's plan is, but nothing in this woman's life has gone right so far. So I'm kind of like, at that point, I was suspicious of him already. But then he plays it back, and you start to like relate to him. He's like, okay, this is a person that's going to help her. This is going to be her cohort, and he does for a while. But he is so committed to what he considers to be the truth that he can't like even take physical evidence or the testimony of her son into account. Like, none of that stuff matters. He's really ready to write it off. And again, it's still, even in that, a little hard to blame him. Like, he hasn't seen the event for himself, and they're talking about a ghost. Like, they're talking about a ghost. What academic scientist is going to just say, okay, all right, yeah, it's a ghost. Like, but I don't know. Then they turn him from like sort of like a little bit. He's a kind of a good guy. Then he's a creeper for showing up at her house. Then he goes back to being like the only guy who believes her in the room, to being like this son of a bitch that won't leave her alone and won't let her get the help that she needs. And that's the audience response, or that was my response as an audience member to that. I thought that was fucking great. He played it so well that like it would. If you were to take any part of that, any scene from this movie with him in it, and extract it from the movie, you wouldn't be able to tell what he was playing. He's just true to the character that he is in that movie. Yeah, I don't know. I think
he just serves as another type of kind of abusive relationship. Again, not to the extreme. Well, yeah, but he also like does the thing where like she's moved on, like she's like, I'm gonna see somebody else, and like he tries to insert himself. He can't, even though he's like in his mind, and like you can like understand, especially like even as a man, like, you know, he starts to care for her and like thinks he's looking out for the best for her and stuff like that, and trying to protect her, but essentially he's just like forcibly inserting himself into her life, trying to make the decisions for her, to a point to where he like threatens to like Baker act her, essentially like, you know, I could like have you put in a hospital, and like, so, oh, it's for your own good. So I mean, is
it toxic masculinity? Who knows?
Well, I mean, it just be
trying to save a woman who doesn't need his help.
Yeah, this poor damn woman, like between like fucking George and the damn ghost and damn doctor. I mean, it's just like these different forms of like abusive relationships. And I think this movie just explores so many of those avenues like well, because even like you want to be like, oh, he just doesn't understand, like who would understand getting raped by a ghost? But I mean, like the way he reacts even in the house, like I'm gonna go like take her out of there. It's like, dude, you don't even like, they're not in a relationship, they're not in a thing, and even if they were, that's not appropriate.
He's the hero
exactly
of his story.
exactly
And
he's
he thinks
thinking
she
like,
is the damsel in his story.
so
and that's
he
what's
like
fun.
goes
You could
in
pick
there
it apart
and talks
with like feminist themes and shit like that if you wanted to, but you could also just straight up watch it as a horror flick. A horrible thing is happening to this woman, and it defies explanation. She can only find help at like when people are confronted with it directly. Yeah. I mean, that's a terrifying concept, and it's played so well, it's acted so well, and the escalation of it is gradual enough, but also jarring enough to be effective in every way you need it to be.
I don't know if this helps the scenes at all. I feel kind of weird saying it. I appreciate that during the ghost attacks, it wasn't just rape, because that was really hard to watch. But like watching that dude like get his ass beat by a ghost, like gave some form of like like I don't know, just watching
it felt humorous by comparison, certainly
a little bit.
Watching her son sort of like struggle against the air is kind of funny,
and
even though it's at the most horrific part of the movie.
Lightning shoot out of his fingers, and then mainly just that last dude, because he like goes full like fucking wrestling on.
He tries to break
shit.
a chair on it.
He tries to break a chair.
That's the part where I was.
Yeah,
he does, and he just hits her, doesn't he? Like she's just like.
I think he does kind of hit her, because then the sunlight comes in and he gets confused.
Yeah, because he just sees him hitting his mom.
And you're like, well, thank God there's like something like to kind of laugh about in these scenes, because otherwise, especially that last scene, where she gets raped in front of her children, that's terrible. But then she also, it's like full frontal nudity, and like it's got like fingers and pressing like on her breast.
That was an impressive effect.
And she's asking like for help. She's like, help me,
terrible.
or whatever it is. And she's like pinned to the bed. And the dude for a second, like, is just standing there like, what the, like, of course. Like,
see, that's the part where I screamed at the movie. I was like, get your ass over there and start.
And then he goes
that fucking ghost.
Full wrestling.
Go Diamond Dallas Page on that ghost ass.
Yeah, you need a fucking Stone Cold Stunner, a fucking poltergeist. Casper needs to get his ass shown.
And he gets his ass beat. I'm just like, thank God, like this is getting like fucking heavy, man.
Let's talk about the end of the movie real quick, and then we can wrap it up. I did not like the end of this movie, I gotta be honest. It seemed to not follow the rest of the tone of the movie, but so she meets these like parapsychologist guys in the bookstore, like we mentioned, and they finally see the entity do its thing. They see it's like electricity or whatever. So they reconstruct her home in this gymnasium, and like it's surrounded by like plate glass or whatever. And their plan is to freeze this ghost with liquid hydrogen, and they've got this like huge liquid hydrogen gun hanging from the rafters. It's like remote control, and it's got all these canisters attached to it. And she like, goes to sleep in this home that they build, and then the ghost shows up, and then they try and freeze it, but the ghost takes over the machine and tries to freeze her, and it doesn't work. And then they eventually do freeze the ghost, and then it breaks out, and she goes back home, and she's still haunted by the ghost, but sort of has just accepted that it's going to be a part of her life. And then that's essentially how the movie ends. They move out of the home, and the ghost is still kind of following them because she's haunted. It's not the house, right? But
I liked the ending.
It felt to me too like Ghostbusters-ish or something. Like, so it's just so over the fucking top. And like, why did they recreate her home? Because it follows her wherever she goes. It like tore up her friend's house. It got in her car. It goes wherever she is. Like, why? I don't understand the point of that. And like this, like, this massive gun in the sky, like. Is this like science fiction? Like it looks like it's out of Star Wars or something.
I agree with that. That is the schlockiest part of this movie.
Yeah,
and these are people from a university.
Right, yeah. Money
and
out the ass.
and they
apparently.
even sign money to build a house, and they're like in a gymnasium with a fucking gun that shoots fucking liquid nitrogen or whatever. But also too, they're like, the dean signed off on this. Like, there's no amount of liability.
Yeah,
like I mean, to put a woman underneath a giant hydrogen gun to freeze a ghost? Who's signing off on that? Who did that? Nobody. That's not real. Nobody
Also,
in there. What insurance policy would you take out for that shit?
The
There's
ghost is
nothing-
like electric somehow. It like controls electric, or it's made of electricity or something. So like, they didn't even really like follow that. Like, build some sort of rubber cube that they
Conductor,
throw
or,
it in,
cover
or
her-
something like that.
anything.
I don't know. Yeah.
Also, too, they built her this cage so she could be safe, so they could freeze the ghost. And when the ghost freezes the cage, it breaks. So I was like, what's the fucking cage for? That was the plan.
Yeah.
That was the plan.
I was like,
Hey,
great, the plan's gonna work out. Nope.
she makes it. The whole plan was, hey, when we like pick up on the ghost, you run to this cage and it's like plexiglass or whatever, and it's vacuumed, and there you'll be safe. And then that's what she does. She runs to the cage, but the ghost has the gun, but that was still the plan. Like, nothing changed.
That, it's an absurd, like, I like, here's what I like. I like getting that they actually freeze it for a second, even though, like, I guess maybe because that sort of like, it marks the end of the period of the freeze ray. I don't like that part of it. I like the setup. I kind of like that they recreated her house. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't. But just as purely as a setting, sort of a falsified equivalent of her house, I kind of dig that as a setting for a big showdown. But you're right. Nobody's going to sign off on this. The helium thing. Why? Why do they think helium's going to freeze a ghost? Why do they think that? What is that?
I kind of like the idea behind it, because
sure, but they're shooting in the dark and they're like, we've got a plan.
Yeah,
They feel confident about the dumbest plan I've ever heard.
It was. I like that, since they're like supposed to be like scientists and shit, and they're like, oh, I like that they approached it as like, it's not a ghost, it's another dimensional being. Like, they specifically said, like, they think it's like a fourth dimensional being, or whatever, which I kind of like, because I've talked about that like a little bit before, like the whole like Carl Sagan, like the flatland, like the 2D, like that stuff like really intrigues me. Well, and the idea that like it's not a ghost, it's like another entity that has like found a way to exploit like our world. Like, except that like it's a man raping, so I couldn't like never rape a flat like circle, like, you know, like, I mean, so that doesn't hold up too well. But I'm just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I like that kind of spin on it. But so that's why they decide to freeze it. They don't think it's a ghost. They're like, does it have matter? Like, how does it exist in our reality, and like, can we exploit that? Which they like kind of do, but again, like a flat circle couldn't freeze my ass. Like, I guess he could freeze like the tip of my finger or some shit, and I'd be like,
I don't understand. Like, it's just the visual of watching the gun inch towards her is really dumb, and it's the weakest part of the movie to me. Is that, oh shit, now, like, and what? That's a little, like, I don't know.
That huge
that's
control room they build too, like with all the flashing buttons. What the hell is that even for?
Star Trek-y in there too.
Yeah. The freezing the ghost too, even when they're like, we got it, like, they didn't do a good enough job, like, because it was just this big mountain of ice. I was like, they need to like make it a like weird shape, or like they need to, like, that was a real missed opportunity for me.
I like that it was a giant, I just love that it was a giant thing and it was breaking out and you don't actually see it. But what I don't like is that every time that creature ends up there entirely because it wants to, I guess, or because it self-owns. Yeah. If the ghost is ever defeated, it's because it's self-owned. Like, there's no reason that it needed to blow up the helium tanks and then douse itself in what he knows, what the entity knows to be freezing ray. He's seen it work its magic. Like, so, like, this is, I don't know, man. That's what, like, that's the shit that bothers me, is like about that scene, is that it's a dumb idea, and the only reason that it plays out to the benefit of our lead actress is because it fucks itself up in the dumbest way possible for no reason, basically.
Yeah, the ghost catches
it's
itself.
It's not like he missed a shot with a rifle and then blew it up like it would be in another movie that's not about a ghost. Like, it's a
Then
ghost,
she, like,
and it's running a
doesn't
fucking
she like
machine.
taunt him or something, and then he just explodes everything. But then he's caught. But then he just breaks out, and then they're like, "Oh, the cameras weren't turned on," and like, "Oh, like
Or it froze
the
cameras.
witnesses aren't going to like speak out against us." They're like, "Well, that sucked." And then
Their thing.
and then it ends with the movie, and the chick goes home, and he calls her a cunt, and then she moves away.
The
She
ghost
moves to
calls her a
Texas.
cunt.
Yeah, he says, "Welcome home, cunt."
I could not believe that. Is it like, what the fuck is this? It's the ghost of like some abusive trucker.
And then also it
Ghost truckers. I'd watch it.
What? And then it just ends with like some text, like, "Oh, they moved to Texas, but she still has like rapes, or she still gets raped, like, you know, from time to time." It's like what
Frequency
essentially
and
what it said.
intensity like has gone down, but it still happens apparently.
This
But it's
multi-dimensional creature is so attracted to this one woman that he rapes her over and over again, beats up her kids, and then calls her a cunt. That is not an interdimensional being. If that's a ghost, it's definitely the ghost of a piece of shit down the way somewhere. Like it's that's not a poltergeist. That's a poltergeist. Usually, I feel like they would have a different way of speaking than using like fucking fucked up nomenclature from modern times. It's like, it's gonna be lit.
They kind of botched the end of this movie.
Yeah,
But
Yeah, the more we talk about it, the more I agree. And
yeah.
I think that like I don't think they knew how to end it. And I think that like here's another thing. You mentioned Ghostbusters. There is a 150% chance that Dan Aykroyd fucking loves this movie, and I'm sure that it came up in conversations about Ghostbusters, because this movie is riding the parapsychologist's fucking dick. It's like they love him. Like they're the good guys. They're the only people that believe her and then know what to do, and they protect her. But even though we know it to be a bad plan, the movie seems to posit it as they have a great plan.
Yeah.
And these guys are going to help you, so you better do their plan. And something went sideways. How could they know? But it's the fucking academics, the Freudian psychologists, who are the villains, who are like, well, I don't know what I saw. It's like, you son of a bitch.
Could have been anything.
Do any of you know what you saw? You
Also,
saw
too, who's gonna reputation, like, I'm a doctor or whatever. I feel like I'm like 50, 60 years old. How am I gonna be like, dude, we just froze a ghost? Like, who's gonna say that? Who? I would.
But we can't thaw it out. Can't do it. Like, what the fuck
have-
are you
hey,
doing?
guess what, guys? We have
try and shut them down on behalf of the EPA.
Yeah, especially too because people should be losing their jobs at this point. Who built a freeze ray in a gym?
Somebody
Who
built
did
a
it?
Death Star style control center, and our
not
budget is
supporting that
fucking
person.
gone.
I'm not supporting them, especially after that shit just blew up and almost murdered everyone.
I think that this movie. So this movie is based on true events on some capacity, supposedly.
Yeah.
It's based on a story that was told by a real person.
I looked into it.
That part is nowhere to be found. That was entirely made up on behalf of the book. Like,
I mean,
there was no gymnasium filled with equipment and helium juice freezing people.
That's understandable. It doesn't fucking fit in the movie.
So I feel
let's
like
rate this.
it's
Unless
like
you
they didn't
guys
know how to end.
You guys good? Rate this thing?
Yeah.
All right. Juice, why don't you kick us off out of 5? How you feeling about the entity?
Shit.
Shot.
I'm floating. Maybe 3. 3.5. 3.5. I'll give it a 3.5.
Okay.
I am not giving the half star for Yabos. Rape does not get Yabos a star.
Whoa, taking a hard line stance. I love it.
Taking a hard stance.
You're really growing, Juice. I approve.
Thanks, guy. A man's got to have a code, you know.
Who said that?
My boy Omar. So no half star for the Yabos because they're essentially only this woman's, and she just gets raped again and again and again, and that's terrible. So I like the themes that this movie brings up. I think it handles them well. The fact that this woman gets abused from like several different people, some of who are like purposefully abusing her, some of them who think they're helping her, and just all around. So I think that parallels reality like really well, even though you're talking about like getting raped by a ghost, like just like the sentence and on paper it sounds terrible or ridiculous in some ways, but the way that they handle it was actually really surprising for the premise and the acting. She did a stellar job, and for the time the effects were like pretty good. Like the lightning, I mean, was a little ridiculous, but even, I mean, the movie is almost 40 years old at this point, and even though like the lightning was a little ridiculous, like it still didn't like
it wasn't
take
terrible.
me. It didn't take me out. I wasn't like, oh, you know, like because they kind of even built on it a little later, like where like you see it's kind of electrical based or something, so it wasn't just a throwaway thing. But so even for that and like the effects of raping a woman as a ghost, like I mean that was like pretty effective. But the ending, they really did botch the ending, and I'm I guess a little surprised that they never went the route of like exorcism or like it wasn't even like touched on at all. So that was kind of an interesting take. On that, like they jumped right into the freeze ray science aspect of it. Like that was kind of super weird, but and then the way it ended, like the whole when the ghosts speak, like they shouldn't have done that. That was bad. That was a bad decision to have the ghost say "Welcome home, cunt" as like the last line of this movie. Like
if they had just not said
so
cunt,
much,
it might have played.
I know. I don't think it
Maybe.
should have speaked. Yeah, I don't think it should have speaked
But,
because it was like,
would have been accepting of.
oh,
Yeah.
good.
I would have been like, that's
what
weird, but it would be like, what? Yeah,
oh my god,
that's a huge miss.
Yeah.
Just don't use the word cunt, and at least it can be like, oh, well, that was kind of dumb, instead of what the fuck are you doing?
I feel like either way, but yeah, the kind of I guess really set it off. But so that was a poor decision. But overall, I mean, I gotta give props, like you said, the everybody did a good job as far as the acting goes. For a crazy premise, like I was like in it, you know, like I never was like. I was sympathizing and I was like going along with the story. I was never just like, after the first raid, I was like, okay, like a woman's getting raped by a ghost. What is this movie going to be? But I mean, for that crazy premise, that I think they handled themselves well. So, yeah, 3.5. I don't really ever want to watch this movie again because it's just rape after rape after rape after. It felt like so much more than 5 to me. But well, whatever, 3.5.
All right, Randy, how you feeling out of 5?
I think we're on the same page, Juice and I, on this, and pretty much entirely. I also would give it a 3.5, and I think it's like, I don't know. I think you put it pretty succinctly, to be honest. The first 2/3 of this movie, and maybe beyond a little bit, are really effective to me. It's really showing like pretty gruesome brutality. Is showing like it's got some great fucking acting that really sells it. It's escalating at a pace that makes it all sort of like, while still shocking, still sort of feels like a steady ramp up. They make a few missteps with like, yeah, I would have liked to see more of her friend, although that's maybe more of a personal thing. Obviously, they didn't have an explicit reason to do so. I don't know. I really think that this movie holds its water pretty well up until we get to that science experiment. That's really what makes it fall apart. There's no reason that this movie couldn't have ended with something a little bit like just a sleep study even, and had the overprotective doctor run in and try and like stop them from doing it, and while he's there, she starts getting attacked again, and he's forced to reconcile what he's seeing with what's actually happening. He runs in there, and at the end, he still blames them. And I don't know. They could have handled it a bunch of different ways that were less cartoonish. It felt like they didn't know how to end it with a bang, so they just fucking threw sci-fi at it, and it doesn't work. It's a dumb plan. Every aspect of it is kind of dumb. The more we talked about it, the more convinced of that I was. So. And like you're right, like they didn't have to say "welcome home, cunt." They certainly didn't have to say cunt. But if they had just had her look over at a fucking picture on the wall and it said "Home Sweet Home" on it with a big crack down the middle, it says everything you needed to say. So
or even,
I mean,
it could have even written on the wall. That would have been better.
Yeah.
Almost anything would have been better.
Yeah.
I was like, there's no way I heard that right. I played it back. He says, "Welcome home."
I almost did, and then I almost had that same reaction. I almost went back and I was like, no, I heard what I heard. Like I was in such disbelief too. I had that same like physical reaction where I was like, I almost like clicked the scroll back and I was like, no, I did that exact same thing. I was like, no.
I respect this movie's commitment to showing sexual assault in a paranormal form, sure, but even through that, showing it as sort of a reality in some capacity, like we talked about. Like, I think that's it's like really impactful for that reason alone. And if you even step aside from that and look at it as a ghost movie, with the exception of the end, it's just strong. So yeah, 3.5. I really wanted to give it a 4, but the fucking ice gun, man, it just really pulls this movie down a rung. I don't know. Get around
Nice
it.
to meet you.
Yeah.
Chill.
We have to go in there and save her.
All right. I'm going to give this a 2.5. As far as like technically, I thought the movie was made really well. There's actually some pretty interesting like camera angles, like specifically when the entity is present, you'll see the camera will like tilt, which was interesting, I guess. Also, they go like they go like full psycho, like when the entity is like raping her. It's just instead of using strings, they use like guitar and drums with that like gank 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 gank, and that was like
it's effective,
really unnerving. Yeah, I thought that worked really well as far as the score is concerned, and the acting is like flawless, man. I really like major props on the acting. I like some of the themes that are going on here. Like I said, I kind of wish they would have left the doubt through line and like linger more in the movie. They kind of squashed that too soon for my liking. And I just like the ending is just dumb to me. I don't like it. Maybe if they had played more on like the whole electrical side of the entity and come up with some way to capture him, like
seems
through
random.
that. Yeah, exactly. Like at least it would have made sense within the story they had already been telling us. But it seems like it's just kind of out of nowhere. And these people have a ton of money. And like, why did they build the house? I just don't get it. I thought that was like a total miss there. And like for the most part, this movie was largely just unenjoyable to watch because of the subject matter. Like they're obviously like trying to make a point, and you got to show what you got to show to get your point across and make your audience feel a certain way. And I get that, but I just I did not enjoy watching this movie. Had me yelling at my TV, which is what they're trying to do, but it's just fucking not my thing. So I'm going to, give it a 2.5, which is going to put our aggregate at a 3.2. For the entity from the Straight Chillin' crew. Let's go ahead and get into the Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what the critics and users have to say about the entity.
Certified fresh to death.
Take it away, Juice.
So the Rotten Tomatoes segment just got a lot less enjoyable because Rotten Tomatoes switched up like their look or whatever, and I hate it. It looks fucking dumb. Yeah, like I gotta scroll down now to see like how many people rate it rotten, how many people like it's a bad layout now. But oh well, we'll press on.
Old Randy
world problems. Yeah, Randy, get on it. So the entity, it looks like from a really small sample size from the critics, total reviews counted 10. We don't even have a critic consensus on this one. Movie is almost 40 years old, and it doesn't seem to have much of a reputation. Like Randy said, it's not something any of us were even super aware of. So it's not super surprising, but let's go ahead and go around the table. Let's see if you boys can guess what these 10 critics have rated the entity. Randy, kick us off. What do you think, guy?
That's really tough. It's tough to get into the mind of a critic from the early 80s. Yeah. I'm going to say 60%.
60%?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just feel like
All
I feel like they might have been offended by the subject matter. That's what I'm concerned about.
Yeah. All right. 60% from Randy. Bob, what do you think?
I'm following the same train of thought for a critic to like really praise the hell out of a movie that has like this much rape in it. I just don't think they do it. So I'll go like 45.
Okay. 45. Randy's going to take it. It is fresh, not enough to certify it, but it is a total of 70%. Let me scroll down now. Rotten Tomatoes.
Don't hurt your finger.
Of the 10 critics that rated this, 7 are fresh, 3 are rotten. So that's where our 70% comes from. And let's see what some of them have to say since we don't have a critic consensus. There's only one top critic that rated this, and it was rotten. The entity offers thrills in short staccato bursts and dull science in long bursts. Okay. I feel like he should have said silence there. So, whatever.
Did he?
He said dull science and long. He said the entity offers thrills in short staccato bursts and dull science and long bursts.
They do kind of go deep into explanations of Freudian psychology for a little bit. Maybe that's what it's referring to. I don't know. That's maybe too generous.
And then let's positive overall. Even today, the entity remains a refreshingly intelligent take on parapsychology and unexplained phenomenon. Okay, so they're going for more of the ghosty aspect there. So, positive, but super small sample size, 10. Let's see what the oozers think of this one. Decent. Still small, but for this movie and its obscurity, 10,000 people on the oozer rating. 10,169. Whoa, boys. So let's go backwards. Rob, what do you think the oozers have to say?
I feel like it'd be more favorable for sure. I'll go. What was the critics again? What do they give it?
70.
70.
So 7 out of 10.
I'll go like 72.
72. All right, Randy.
I was going to go 75. I'm just going to stick with that.
75. All right. Rob's going to take it. Actually, a little lower than our critic score, but still on the positive, 60%. So, yeah, 60% are digging this film. See, I don't have an average rating anymore. Rotten Tomatoes took away, like, the average. Like, yeah, I don't know.
They fucked us.
I don't like this new setup. Yeah, they kind of fucked us. We might have to switch. We might have to get out. You know? Well, no, certified fresh. It's kind of our thing, I guess. Oh God, they fucked us.
They fucked us.
They fucked our brand.
God damn it.
I was like down into the flow. You know, I had my.
Yeah, you were in the flow.
I can't do my average ratings anymore. I can't do.
Goddamn sense.
God damn it. Maybe it looks better on a phone. I'll check out how the mobile looks. Maybe I'll have to switch over. But all right.
Rotten Tomatoes.
Either way, positive though for the entity, 70 and 60%. So you know,
that's cool. That's real cool.
Yeah. I mean, with this much, that kind of subject matter, this much, I guess it makes sense. The general audience would be pretty critical of that.
We talking about that cooter?
Yep, I was about to drop it. Here we go.
Cooter of the week.
All right, cooter of the week. I feel like there's probably more than one, but I feel like the obvious choice would be the entity itself, right?
Yeah, there's so many choices in this one, but I mean, we'll save it for that Hotline Scream. But we could talk about I mean, I feel like the ghosty is. Well, okay, so we got to talk about the points. So what points does he hit? He's a sexual deviant.
Yeah, for sure. Sexual deviant.
Times 1,000,000.
Yeah. And then, but also to solidify that, but just 1 point enough, even though it's like crazy off the scales, like way off the Jeremiah scale. He's like 200 on the Jeremiah scale, double. But on, he's also manipulative, that son of a bitch. That son of a bitch entity. He like the way he fucks with her when she's sleeping or whatever, and like totally like breaks her down psychologically, which is not something we really covered in the review, but like I think it's like maybe the third time he is fucking with her when she's sleeping and actually like gives her a pleasurable orgasm, and when she wakes up and realizes,
we did mention that.
Yeah,
There's
briefly.
another
I think we went
real
into
world
it.
parallel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So, and she feels so terrible about it. She feels like so guilty about it, and that's a terrible thing. So this son of a bitch is manipulative. Obviously, he's invisible, so we can't see what he looks like.
I
So the
think that's
entire
good enough for the
yeah.
entire.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So he hits the 2 points.
He does
so
smell. We know he smells.
He smells. That's true. Which I mean, yeah. Definitely Cooter of the Week. Let's talk about some of the runner-ups, though. Doctor, I think even the Doctor, he hits the smug arrogance.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
And he hits the manipulation when he's like, I could have you Baker, or I could like put you in the hospital.
Yeah.
It's like, you fucker, like, goddamn, like just trying to like force his will or whatever. It's like, you son of a bitch.
He's got to be right.
And he drives her home, which also I think ranks a little bit like that's a blip on the sexual deviance.
I felt that was innocent, but I mean, I could see.
I would be willing to accept that if he didn't go into her house after, like, basically invite himself, say, "Would you like me to come in and have a look around?" Like, yeah. Like, this is a vulnerable person who just told them she believes a ghost is raping you, and you don't believe her. So what is your, like, that's not professional to begin with.
Yeah.
Like, he crosses the professional threshold many times in this movie. So I think there's something to be, he's clearly attracted to her, and that's what's causing him to be interested on a level that's beyond professionalism. Yeah,
it's true. So that dude's definitely Cooter. Also, fucking George. George could easily be a Cooter. He's like,
which one's George?
He's the husband who's like screaming,
verbally like abusive, just kind of a piece of shit.
We don't see enough of him, I don't think.
We don't, but I mean, he's still like, if we did, he would. I feel like he could easily hit the Cooter as well. And is anybody else?
Jerry, I feel like hits it minorly. I had some hope for Jerry. I was like, maybe it's just like the times that are showing that he's like a little dismissive of her, and like. And a little bit like, oh, who invites a bunch of psychologists to their house? Just tell him. But he's also like trying to get her to tell him what's going on, and she's being like withholding
Jerry
on
totally
that.
Bitches out, man. Well, I mean, he does get his ass beat by the entity,
that's
but he bitches
that
out.
Me want him to be on this list.
He's
that
like
guy
later
can fuck himself.
He said,
that is
Felicia.
A coward. Like he's like, I could have dealt with cancer. I could have dealt with anything. Except I was like, motherfucker, this is anything. This is what anything is.
This is the only thing that I can't deal with, that I've never seen before and didn't know existed and can't explain and can't see. But that's the only thing that I couldn't fucking deal with.
Look, I mean, you saw it one night. You can't even go in there and speak to her. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, dude.
Bye,
Her son
Felicia.
gets his ass beat while watching his mom get raped by a ghost, and like it seems to not phase that dude.
Yeah.
That dude's like, the next night he's like, all right, mom, I'm going to bed. It's like, dude, what? What?
Yeah.
All right, mom, I'll say it later. It's like, no.
Hey, what's going on?
That dude's like totally fucking chill. I was like, that was the only part of the acting where I was like, they need to direct that kid or like give him something more drastic.
Yeah, he's that horrifying experience. Yeah.
They didn't.
Yeah.
I was worried they weren't going to show him talking about his experience at all. Unfortunately, they did, but it was much later, after she had already been dismissed by a board of psychologists, where he could have easily come in and like, I saw this happen. My wrist is fucking broken.
Yeah.
Fucking electricity fly out of my goddamn fingertips. Don't tell us that we're mass hallucinating. Like, like, I don't know, like, just to let him at least say that he believes her to a board that is deciding whether or not they can help her.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I'm asking too much. It's like, I don't know.
He was like the only man that wasn't a cooter in this movie. Damn. Or potential cooter.
Good dude. Just trying
to. He's a pretty solid kid, man.
So, Ghost, we land on the Ghost for Cooter?
Yeah,
Definitive
Ghost
Cooter
for
of the
Cooter of the
Week.
Week. The entity.
The entity, Demon.
Randy, you're
whatever
like,
it is.
You're like Mike is gone or something.
I think Skype's fucking up. Just make sure you're up on it, and you should be okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Skype gets weird sometimes.
But it's affecting me too. It usually only well, I don't know. Just be cautious, Randy.
Yeah, what we hear from Randy should be the same, but it's Skype. It's Skype. Randy, do you have any trivia?
Sure.
Cool. Let's.
It's totally time for trivia.
Take it away, dog.
So we got a little bit here, and it's mostly pretty interesting stuff. First of all, as we discussed, this is based on some sort of true event, although even the movie itself says it's an extrapolation of that. So it does, or whatever it says in the end where it's like, this is based on some true events, but I don't know, it phrases it somehow to say like, but it's not 100% accurate. For starters, it's not the name of the woman who actually went through this, supposedly. Her name was Doris Bither. And it says here, this movie is based on the real-life attack of Californian woman named Doris Bither. According to Bither, she was constantly raped by the spirits of 3 men. 2 would hold her down while the 3rd raped her. So we know that to some extent. This also says, following Dolores' cry for help among the paranormal investigative community, a book was written about her experience in 1978 called The Entity by Frank DeFilida. In 1982, he adapted his book for the screen. And Sidney J. Furie, a director most well known for films like The Lady Sings the Blues and Ladybugs, directed this piece.
Ladybugs. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That's about fucking ants fucking women or something. I don't know. Something fucked up, I'm sure. According to an interview with Rue Morgue in 2012, Fury went out of his way to keep from learning anything about the actual case, and the film is a very loose adaptation of the actual events. So he actively did not pursue the facts of the case, which, I mean, for better or for worse, I don't know. It seems like I would like to know more about the actual case. Now, like, if you're going to tout that at all, you better, like, I don't know, you better have some.
Ladybugs is the Rodney Dangerfield movie, by the way. Sorry, continue.
Like I said,
I read a brief trivia somewhere because I was like, okay, I wanted to know about the freeze gun. I was like, did they actually do like a freeze gun experiment? They didn't. And from what I saw from like the account, it was a single mother who like had a history of substance abuse. Yes. And they were like living in like a dilapidated, like their home was like,
it was not a good home.
No, so it really kind of hurts the credibility of any of this, and especially with the dude being like, I didn't look for any of the facts. It seems like none of this, like, really, other than the fact that one woman who had kids said 3 ghost raped her, is about as far as it goes.
There's some other similarities, but like, yeah, it's not enough to like really make this movie at all. Like you said, like, and none of that science experiment happened, which is the bulk of the 3rd act. So just that alone is a pretty big shift. The real life Carla Moran's, which is Dolores Bither, her teenage son described a particularly vicious attack in which Carla was thrown by the malevolent force and hit her head. He tried to intervene, but he was also thrown, breaking his arm.
Oh, damn. Okay.
In the filming of that, so that happened. In the filming of the movie, the actor playing the son broke his arm in that scene, and the curtains tore from top to bottom without explanation.
Damn.
So your boy got his fucking arm actually broken.
That's okay.
And not just in real life for the real person that went through this, but also for the actor playing him. So
that's hardcore, man. That's method acting right there. Break it.
And they didn't use the ear-piercing scream that surely followed. It was like, ah, shit!
Don't call me Shirley, guy.
Don't call me guy, pal.
Moving forward. The method in which Carla is diagnosed by physicians, a method which relies heavily on her personal history and in particular her relationship with her father and her sexual encounters with other men, reflects largely a Freudian psychodynamic method of diagnosis. This combined with the fact that she initially is diagnosed by the team of doctors as having, quote, hysteria, which I did notice, by the way, a disorder that has disappeared from mainstream American psychiatric diagnostics, makes this movie one of the last in which Freudian methods and conceptions, largely related to sex and childhood development, are shown to have a significant impact on the diagnosis of patients.
It was like that list we had where it was like, how are we going to throw her in the hospital?
Yeah. She's suffering from
at one point,
quackery.
Didn't at one point they were even like, she's masturbating?
Yeah.
Like one doctor said that.
Yeah. No, the lead guy, he's like, she's masturbating and she doesn't know how to deal with it emotionally because she feels dirty, so she beats up a ghost. She has fucking bite marks on her fucking upper shoulder. What are you fucking talking about?
She's got the war in her.
Dude. The war.
How you gonna do that?
She's masturbating. I was like, wait, what?
If, you,
Like, what?
if listeners want to watch Randy try and bite himself on the shoulder, check out YouTube.
Yeah, behind the scenes, Randy's trying to recreate
Can't be done. Glove does
the
not fit.
masturbation scene.
The glove does not fit.
You must quit.
And
So,
to complete
We're not
this,
saying that Randy's masturbating, but Randy might be masturbating on screen right now.
I'm always masturbating.
Damn.
I'm constantly spraying a mist of masturbation.
We could
across all.
all be masturbating and nobody would know.
I mean,
Cool.
I would, this is taking a turn.
Glad we're talking about that. We all just
Well,
jerk
let's
off
move.
while we record the show.
Rob, you feeling called out? You fucking
Yep.
jock.
You
Let
found
me
me.
see those
God
hands,
in
Bob.
heaven.
Hands up.
Hand check.
Hand
Um,
check.
So just to conclude that piece of trivia, with a rise of neurochemistry, neuroscience, and biological tests in the 80s and 90s and beyond, Freudian methods like those portrayed in the film would themselves be considered by many mainstream biological psychiatrists to be superstitious. So just sort of round that out.
There is superstition.
The whole dream sequence where Carla was a whole dream sequence where Carla was forced to have incestuous thoughts of her son by the entity was dropped from the movie by the director because it was too sexually controversial at the time. This was despite the then recently released Bernardo Bertolucci film Luna in '79, which examined a mother-son relationship and was also released by 20th Century Fox. So I actually I know they sort of semi mentioned it, and that's the point where Dr. Beardface is told to go away, basically, when he suggests that maybe she has sexual feelings for her son, which is a pretty fucking shitty thing to say to somebody. But they apparently had a whole thing where that was supposed to happen. And I actually thought to myself early in the film, I was like, man, is this her son or her lover? I genuinely couldn't tell right away. I don't know if I caught the first mom.
Yeah, there was one little hint that they wanted to develop
He's a
that,
pretty
and
cool
where
son.
she mentions he's looks exactly like his father, and that was her first high school 16 love or whatever. That was the only thing where I was like, what? But yeah, I'm glad they squashed that. There's enough in this film without having to throw that in there. Yeah,
they could have, but it really wouldn't have done much for her. It would have been just extra stuff. For the scenes where the entity assaults Carla Moran, the visual effects team designed a prosthetic breastplate and full body that could be, quote, indented from below, pretending fingers touch her body.
Yeah, you could tell a little bit. It looked a little rubbery or whatever, but still, for the time, pretty
it was Mancini, though. This was a Mancini film.
Savini?
What's his name?
Tom Savini?
No.
Mancini?
What's this fucker's name? I got to look it up on IMDb now.
He's the composer, right? Mancini's the composer who did the music for Friday the 13th. Are you talking about practical effects wise?
I thought I just saw his name in there. I thought that maybe I am getting confused with Savini, actually. I don't know. I'll figure it out when, the fucking...
Continue.
I'll figure it out, and we can pretend like I know what I'm doing again.
Okay.
We're professionals.
Very professional. So,
do this now.
Barbara Hershey. Barbara Hershey played the lead role in this film. You might also recognize her from Insidious, chapters 1 and 2, as well as a bunch of other things, which I don't want to go down the list right now. She's been in the Last Temptation of Christ and shit. Also considered for this role, Jane Fonda, Jill Clayburgh, Bette Midler, and Sally Field.
Damn.
Some pretty fucking big names that were either passed on this or were passed over for this. But I think Barbara fucking nailed it, to be honest. I'm pretty impressed with this role.
Real good.
And it's actually has a weird resonance with Insidious for her being the mom in Insidious. Although obviously a little bit less graphic sexually.
She's the mom in Black Swan as well.
Oh yeah. So she's constantly grappling with insane paranormal situations or insanity. So in July 2012, Rue Morgue published an interview with the director Sidney J. Fury, and he said that he does not consider this film to be a horror film.
Wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, what?
Wrong.
What kind
Pretty
of
strong
film does he
disagree.
consider it to be? What genre does he place it in?
It's a ghost. It's a ghost. Like, it's a very effective horror film, but it's a horror film.
Yeah, what the fuck?
It's not a comedy, and it's not a drama. It's a fucking horror. It's kind of a drama. And last but not least, this is the most interesting thing to me, just because I didn't see it coming. You'll never guess. I'll let you guys guess. What is a very famous director that might include this in the top 11 scariest horror films of all time list that he wrote?
Spielberg.
So it's a man. Right.
That he wrote?
Yeah, he wrote.
Oh, he wrote the list.
His top 11 scariest films. This is on a famous director's list. Can you guess who it is?
Tarantino.
Spielberg.
Tarantino, Spielberg? Wrong. Martin Scorsese.
Ah.
Oh.
Scorsese put this on his top 11 scariest horror films of all time. I mean, I could see that. And, like, I don't know. Scorsese's like, there's few directors that have the kind of weight to throw around that he does. He's not a chump.
Respect that, yeah. Gotta respect that man's opinion.
You have to.
So there we go.
I'm telling you, because I'm a man.
Cool.
All right. Keep taking some turns.
Cool. The only thing I think we definitely need to touch on as far as the news is concerned is, well, let me drop the bumper real quick.
Extra, read all about it.
So you might be familiar with our boy Dick Bibbs, a.k.a. Joe Bob Briggs.
Yeah.
We've been talking about his weekly show coming back to Shudder sometime in March. They finally announced the date. It is March 29th, which is going to be a Friday night, and it's going to be the following 8 consecutive Fridays as well. So there's going to be 9 shows. They're all going to be double features starting March 29th.
Do they have like themes or anything, or is he just doing like the double features? Are they going to be like sequels, or what's?
I don't know.
The deal,
they don't tell you. Like they haven't announced any of the movies they've covered in the past, and I think you just got to tune in to know. They're not going to.
Okay, I just know like before. Well, it was supposed to be Christmas. Fuck that. Whatever.
So I was sorry to interrupt real quick.
Yeah.
I have now corrected myself, and I was wrong on pretty much every level. The special effects director on this film is not Manfredini. It's Stan Winston. Stan Winston. I got a bunch of names mixed up in my head.
Oh,
it's Stan Winston's.
Yeah. From Pumpkinhead fame.
From Terminator 2, from Aliens, from Jurassic Park, from Artificial Intelligence. I'm just reading off his known list, but yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Cool. The only information we do have regarding the movies that were chosen is they go on to say that the movies were chosen across 5 decades and include everything from classics to obscurities to foreign cult offerings. They're going to have some guests on that I guess they're going to, I don't know if they're going to like do segments with or just like interview them or if they're going to like perform certain things or I don't know. But that should be fun. I don't know. Apparently Joe Bob goes on to say that, quote, I don't want to say we got carried away with the possibilities here, but we kind of got carried away with the possibilities here, end quote. So that's cool. I guess they're going to try some new stuff, seemingly. So I'm looking forward to it. I think that'll be fun.
With any luck, we'll be able to have a little chat room going, hopefully.
Yeah, but, we're going to try and organize a bit of a live watch scenario with this. So, yeah, more information to come regarding
we will certainly be on Twitter regardless.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, Richie Bibbs.
It's a live event for horror film dorks. Let's do it, guys.
Fuck yes. So, yeah, that's the only thing I definitely wanted to talk about regarding news. Let's go ahead and get into our voicemail segment. Hotline Scream, a.k.a. messages from a place I like to call the further, whichever one you prefer.
Hashtag your team. I'm wondering,
Yeah,
I wonder where everyone stands.
Okay.
You got to pick a side. You gotta.
Hey, let's be fair. I didn't start this, okay?
Yes, you absolutely started
this. No. The fans clamored for it. I didn't start hashtag Team Scream.
Who did that? I don't know. I haven't seen that.
Oh yeah, somebody commented hashtag Team Scream on one of our things.
Michael? I can't remember.
You started that though because you made it a point. You said you were going to go ahead and do that.
Well,
Go
that
ahead
was
and do that.
I honestly didn't realize that you had made a graphic for it. I did not.
True.
This
No.
is the beef. We're in beef territory
Yeah,
right
we
now.
got fresh
Hashtag
beef.
your
We're-
team. That's all you
that's
need
right.
to do. It's
This
just
is
hashtag
fucking-
your team.
This is Arby's extra beef right here, man. We're
You
about
can
to have.
do
we're about to have-
hashtag Team Scream or hashtag whatever Randy's hashtag is. You know.
Okay, all right, you fucking
Messages from the
jock.
furthers.
Let's take the American Idol aspect out of this and just fucking call it the right name that we have on all our graphics. Since I fucking did free work for you, dopes.
Yep.
All right.
Let's so let's listen to these voicemails. If in case you want to call us and leave a message and tell us how much we suck, you can do that at 904-638-3231. We got 3 new voicemails this week. Let's go ahead and run them down. First one coming up, we're going to hear from old stalker Stacy.
Hey guys, it's Stacy. I just listened to the audition episode, and yeah, thanks Bob for throwing me under the bus. Like, maybe some people need a different perspective on the matter, but yeah, I didn't stick to my guns, and I will never ever do that again. I take it back. The movie sucked ass. That's my final answer. Also, the question about the vomit or the sack thing, I honestly think I'd rather drink the vomit because I think I would drive myself insane in the sack. That sounded funny. But I would drive myself crazy being trapped inside something. I would drink that vomit. I'd be done with it. I'd throw up that vomit mixed with my own vomit. Anyways, I have one for you guys. This one has always grossed me out since the dawn of man. My question for you is: would you rather, even thinking about saying it, it makes me kind of gag a little. Would you rather eat a bucket of boogers or a bucket of scabs? That's my question for you. Talk to you later. Bye.
Thanks for calling, Stacy.
Hashtag your teams. Hashtag juices answer boogers.
Hashtag boogs. Hashtag scabs.
So I want to point out that nice work, Stacy, coming around to the right side of history on Happy Death Day to you.
Wrong
This is
side.
a real flip flopper.
I know. Got a real Jim Carrey over here. Am I right?
Ooh. She's standing firm, man. She's standing firm.
Not really.
Yeah, not at all. Every
No,
time she calls in, she
actually
changes her
not,
opinion. I won't have it on the
Also-
show.
As of today, standing firm.
Also, if people like skipped last episode or missed last episode, there's a lot of I
Yeah.
just realized when we make these prompts for answer us
Yeah.
next time, it's like, what the
You gotta
fuck is
provide some
We
happening?
should probably
Context.
reiterate that. We
Yeah,
had
you
a
really
would you
need to
ra-
know what's going on.
We had a would you rather prompt last time. Would you rather eat your own vomit or eat someone else's vomit, out of a dog bowl, or live in a sack for 24 hours or more? And
It's
it sounds
relevant to
Audition.
relevant to-
by the way.
Yeah.
Also, Stacy does not think she would like it in the sack. So, I mean, phrasing, but
Wait, how long do you have to live in the sack?
24 hours.
24 hours.
Dude, I
yeah.
could live in a sack
I
for
think the
24
sack.
hours.
I think if you said like
Just self-reflection, man. You know, just
that's a hard pass.
just get in there,
I'd-
chill.
I'd take the sack life. I'm not eating somebody's vomit.
Now
Just
I don't know
not
if
gonna
she
happen.
the vomit is it from like a super hot chick or what?
Dude, it's vomit.
Dude, I'm
It's
fucking
vomit.
around.
No,
even
you're not. You're
joking.
serious.
Hashtag Team Justin, drink that vomit.
Hashtag Team Scream. Let's go. All right. Next voicemail.
Wait. We gotta answer her.
Oh yeah, we gotta answer the question.
So she
Are you a
said
booger boy
eat
or
boogers
a
and
scabs?
scabs. Yeah.
Scab
She didn't specify. Is it your own or someone else's? Because I think that plays a
Oh,
part.
God. Let's just say it's someone else's.
Oh God. Can't you get I don't know, what's their blood? Like, do they have HIV?
Oh,
Isn't that
no-
like a scab
No
thing?
HIV. No HIV involved.
I'm going boogers. I just
Yeah, I'm
don't.
going booger.
Boogers
I don't
all
want to
the
get
way.
involved with blood types and shit.
Boogers all the way.
You gotta go boogers. Also, too, just the consistency of boogers, they're not great, but can you eat
great.
scabs? Like a whole bucket?
Just thinking
They're
about a
kinda
scab
like
on my
White Castle or
tongue
Crystal Burgers.
makes me want to puke. It makes me want to
At
puke.
least boogers are soft.
Oh,
You could pretend that they're really salty gummy bears.
that's disgusting.
You could just like mush them like the Gushers we used to, just push them all in one ball and just down it
Well,
real
that's a
quick.
good question.
It's a
How solid
bucket.
are these boogers?
It's a bucket. I don't think you're getting them all in your
Snotty
mouth
booger.
in one go.
Dude, but okay, Gushers come in a packet and you're able to push them down.
Dude, imagine a bucket full of Gushers. They're not all going in your mouth. It's not going to happen.
Okay, boogers aren't as big as Gushers, Bob. I'm just trying to
It's
relate.
a bucket. The bucket is full, dude. Regardless, we're getting in the weeds
Can
here.
I pick the bucket? Can I pick which bucket?
No.
We're
Because I
all
think Lego
going,
makes a tiny little bucket, and I
we're
probably
all
use it.
going boogers.
No, yeah, buggers. So, yeah, that gross. Thanks, Stacy. I guess I don't know.
If you have a would you rather, please horrify us with a
Yeah.
voicemail.
Freak us out.
Are we going Michael next? I need to line this up.
Yeah, let's go ahead and hear from our good pal Michael from old
All right.
Horror Apocalypse podcast. Here we go.
Hey guys, this is Michael from the Whole Apocalypse. I just wanted to give you guys a call and let you know something very important. First off, sorry, I'm just getting over being sick. Had a rough weekend. Today's Friday. On Monday, my wife and I had to put our dog to sleep. She was 19 years old. We had her for 17 of those glorious years. But today was the first day I was able to drive to work and not cry. And that was because I sat down and I figured I was going, for the first time since that happened, I was going to listen to something. You know, I needed to get my mind active. And I put you guys on, and it was like I was driving to work with a group of friends. It was fantastic. What you guys do is great. You have great chemistry. I just, every time I see a new episode from you guys pop up, I get excited. I'm like, I can't wait. You guys are one of my favorite podcasts. And I just wanted to call and thank you for everything that you do and to, for helping make my trip to work so much easier this past couple of days. So thank you and keep doing what you guys do. Love y'all.
Hey, Michael, thanks for calling, man. It's good to hear from you.
Man.
And
Yeah, definitely condolences. First off,
Yeah.
man, that's really tough.
sorry about your dog.
We've all lost pets. It's
Yeah.
not for the faint of heart.
Even if you're not like a pet person, like, oh, I'm not a dog person, I'm not a cat person, like, just like imagine like 17 years of your life. Like, I mean, how old were we when we were 7? I mean, like, God, to like have something removed from that. I mean, it's so hard. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But man, on the plus side, the fact that anybody used my name positively in a sentence with the word chemistry is a huge plus. For me. That's never happened before. Not my subject. So
Also,
glad I could.
I want to point out, as soon as I listened to it, I had been reading the transcript or whatever. I didn't realize it was Michael. Like, even though it said Michael, but it says Michael from Hulu Apocalypse. Like when the Google tries to translate it, and I was like, "What the fuck is Hulu Apocalypse?" So when it was like Michael from Horror Apocalypse, I was like, "Oh my god!"
It's like Thunderdome, but you have to watch like episode after episode of King of the Hill until you crack.
So I was like, okay, I know Michael. Like, it's like I just didn't even realize that it was Michael. So appreciate you always participating on the show. And definitely check out Horror Apocalypse if you guys are looking for some more podcasts to listen to. Michael's a good friend of the show.
There's
so
a 0% chance that it's less professional than us. So
yeah, I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And if the fact that our stupid show has made anybody's day any easier is still mind blowing, but that's cool, man.
It's almost criminal that we are given that kind of responsibility.
We don't know how to handle it. We don't know how to wield this.
No.
Time for some fart jokes.
We're heading right towards
Farts
that
and
iceberg.
dicks.
It's just a matter of time, really.
Yeah.
Time for that morning zoo fart soundboard, Rob.
I
Hit
wish
it.
I had a fart sound queued up. I was so blasted.
Thanks, Randy.
Yeah, I do my best. I'm the human soundboard.
Cool. So our last voicemail here is from the gentleman that chose the film we spoke of this evening, the one, the only Hydraberg. Let's hear
Hail Hydraberg.
Hail Hydraberg.
Hail Hydraberg. Also, like, one more props, like, shouts out to Hydraberg. Thanks for supporting us again. This was his Patreon pick. I know we mentioned, like, the first thing in the show, but since we just did a full review and everything, thank you again, Hydraberg, for your Patreon pick.
Yeah, man.
Agreed.
Hydraberg is
for everything, really.
Is pretty ride or die, and we fucking appreciate the hell out of him, man. It's always cool hearing from you. And this is the first time I think we've all heard his voice, actually. So now, now we know what you sound like, motherfucker.
Now we gotta just not fall in love.
I know. That's the only challenge now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen Hyderberg. He talks on the Twitch chat, but I guess I've never actually talked to him. That's crazy.
So let's hear what the man has to say. Here we go.
What up, nerds? It's your boy, the one, the only, Hyderberg, calling in. I hope you guys enjoyed my Patreon pick this week. It's a movie that's always stuck with me since I was young, probably because of the full frontal nudity, but seriously, I don't know, it's kind of intense. Especially the music that kicks in when the spectral entity is in the room. And I don't know, it's a pretty far-out movie. I've always liked poltergeist-type stuff. I also want Justin to recognize that I think this is the first documented case of a spectral cooter. I mean, it's definitely, you can't see it, so I don't know what it's wearing, but it's definitely a sexual deviant. And man or ghost, anybody who rapes a woman in front of her children is a fucking cooter, in my opinion. So I just hope you guys enjoyed everything, and I hope it's a good discussion. All right, so keep chilling. Later.
Thanks, Hyderberg, man. That man right there has read his cooter handbook. He's got that shit on lock.
That dude's official cooter hunter.
That guy's our cooter hunter intern right there.
Yeah.
He
knows what's going on.
He's doing the Lord's work.
I think it is. Like, didn't we try a house? Wasn't a house a cooter at one time?
Yeah. I can't remember what it was.
I don't remember.
It was Hill House. I think it was Hill House.
Maybe. I don't know. We were like, first house like cooter.
Because it was a big ensemble cast.
But I think this has been, the first ghost cooter. I think so.
As far as I can recall.
Our database is incomplete.
Yeah. It's
incomplete.
File not found.
I want to point out that on the text-to-speech for Hyderberg, he says, I've always liked poltergeist-type stuff. That is not what you said according to Google. It says that you said, I've always liked older guys-type stuff. So for the grandpa chasers out there, good for you. Follow your bliss. Fucking old guy.
Specifically at Randy when that line came up. And I think me and him had the same thought, like older guy type stuff.
He's into the old bish. He has asked about Cesar.
Grandpas need love too, man.
Yeah, man. Give it to them.
Mm-hmm. They got them depends on. So if you're into that, have at it.
Okay.
You're lucky.
Them adult diapers. Yeah, man. Thanks for the pick. I think it did yield a pretty solid conversation. Actually, it's something that it was a lot to kind of, for me anyways, to work through, because it's not something that I would, like I said, I would have finished otherwise. But even though I didn't love it, I think it yielded a pretty solid conversation. So thanks, man. Appreciate it. It's good to hear from you.
And even that, people have been using like the Patreon to like make us watch fucked up shit. This is the first one like where I feel like it was under the radar, where like nobody, Martyrs has like a reputation.
Yeah.
And even Audition wasn't a Patreon pick, but it was like a poll pick. Like Audition has a reputation. Serbian Film has a reputation, but like Entity is pretty far under the radar. And like to mention, like I saw this movie when I was young. Like this is an intense movie to see when you're young. Like getting into horror or anything really. Like to see a movie again with the full frontal nudity but also like just like getting raped again and again and again is fucking intense. So good Lord.
This is another fucked up movie, but it's one that I think like sort of like I thought about Martyrs. It kind of earns it. So. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I like that this time it like nobody really knew about it, but it's like bringing it.
And we were also going in blind, which is great.
Exactly.
Like, that can go really bad, and but as like many of the picks I've made that have gone over really poorly, can attest to. But this was a good pick.
Agreed. So that's going to do it for our voicemail segment there. Again, if you want to leave us a voicemail, you can reach us at 904-638 3231. Thanks for everybody that called in this week. We're going to be back next week with another episode. It's going to be another Patreon pick chosen by Becky, who you're probably familiar with because she's been on the show before. We're going to be talking about a movie called The Farm, which I believe is on Netflix. Is that right, Randy?
I think we got it on Amazon Prime. I'll have to see where it's streaming. Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Okay, well, it's
you
at
have
least on
seen this
Amazon.
film, Randy.
I have seen this film, and I'm abstaining from comment until we get on the air next week.
What I want to ask is, are you going to watch it again in preparation for next week's episode?
It depends. I'm going to read a summary and make sure I remember every part of it. And if I do, it was only a few weeks ago that I watched this, so it's pretty
I think
fresh.
Bex should insist that you watch it again.
Yep.
I'll have to text her on the low.
I think Bex used my money to make this Patreon.
Typical woman.
Good on her. So that'll be interesting. Another movie that I don't fucking know anything about. So I guess we'll find out next week what The Farm is about.
Yeah, don't look up anything about it. Like, it's not really like a huge spoiler sort of thing, but there's enough to where the impact might be lost a little bit.
I'll keep it blind. Keep it blind. So yeah, until next week, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. You can follow us on Twitter at STR8_chilling. We're on Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. You can drop us a line on the website, straightchillingpodcast.com. If you want to hit us up on our Slack channel, just let us know through any one of those social media websites, and I'll send you a link so you can hop on there. We talk about the movie of the week, as well as, music, video games, spooky news, spooky trailers, all kinds of fun stuff throughout the whole week. So join in on that. Hit us up on our YouTube channel, YouTube/Straight Chilling Podcast. Hit us up on the Twitch channel. Justin's on there usually every Tuesday and Saturday night. And I think that's it. So until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.